Welcome back. Today is Banshee's Framework Livestream Day. Banshee is, for me, a pretty exciting one. I think Banshee is a fairly specific frame, which is good for discussion. Ash and Atlas so far have been rather broad by comparison. Banshee has all these finicky abilities. So I think there's a lot of room for going in different directions with Banshee. I wanted to start the stream today by briefly kind of clarifying something that's happened in the previous ones while people trickle in today. And it's my tendency to want to make like one build, basically. I don't I don't want that. It appears that I want that. I seem to be interested in condensing everything into one build. And it's not because I am not interested in there being a lot of builds. I'm not trying to make one authoritative build that is like the only build. That's not what I want. The reason I'm doing that is because I believe it pushes the discussion to create ideas that really are unique, that really would need their own build. I like dense builds. So if we can put like lots of build stuff all in the same place, I want to do that. It's not because I don't want a lot of different builds. It's because, in my opinion, they aren't different builds. Does that make sense? Another thing is, like with Ash, we kind of ended up with two builds, but one of them, it's like, but why? Like what? There isn't any. It's just a playstyle preference thing. I talked about that a little bit with Atlas too, because we settled on mostly just his punches. But I've changed my attitude about that. I think that it is better, maybe, to get distracted by what my Banshee builds are. They're nonsense, okay? It's better maybe to just approach like playstyles that are functional on the frame and look at what they have to offer. Like it's fine if it's not like unique utility or whatever. A lot of the time it won't be. Let's just see what they can do. If a lot of things will get the job done, then having some variety can be a virtue, and let's just explore that. And certainly if the frame has unique utility, I do want to talk about that too. Cool. Okay, so Banshee, generally I structure these by, we'll start by kind of giving an overview of what she has, what she does. I kind of say my bit about the frame, and then we go from there. Ace, welcome back. I'm not able to comment too much on Banshee, hoping to learn some ways to compensate for their soft defenses. Banshee is indeed a squishy girl, but I do think there are some solutions. I really like talking about the nature of durability on the frames. I find that very interesting, like how every frame, almost every frame, has some kind of solution for damage and then survivability and then like controlling enemies. And a very few frames kind of lack one of those, and they generally have some like incredibly dramatic benefit to compensate. And I think Banshee lacks the survivability one, and in exchange has a pretty unique damage effect, her sonar. And I'm not sure that's a good trade. I don't think it is. But I do think that's interesting and a good point of discussion for Banshee. I hope you find that that way of wording it to be a productive, if not the only helpful way to discuss it. Rusty Bastards Dragoon, welcome back. Vampiro, welcome back. Let's talk about Banshee's abilities, and then we will begin.
Banshee the best frame for all the things, except the thing she is not the best at, as long as you don't mind randomly dying from time to time. How are you doing?
Yes. As long as getting sneezed on by a Grenier Butcher is not something that bothers you, then Banshee's fine. Now, particularly for Banshee, unlike a lot of frames we've talked about so far, the Helminth system is a huge deal for a frame like Banshee. I feel like the discussion about Banshee and frames like Banshee completely changes when you have the Helminth system. This Warframe doesn't, like, the drawback of not having like a damage buff of some kind or a survivability thing of some kind is almost always removed by the Helminth system. So frames that are very skewed in one or another direction there, that is often immediately and violently remedied by the helmet system, creating some kind of monster that did not deserve to exist. So I'm quite excited to talk about that with Banshee, because I completely agree. Please one time. I think it's pretty simple. Like you just slap on Gloom, and you're not gonna die probably, and then you have all the time in the world to shoot sonar spots and use silence to defend yourself and whatever, which is really cool. So we're gonna get into that now. Pixel, welcome back. Please one time, welcome back. Rusty, Dragoon, both of you, welcome back. Bastards, I probably already said welcome back, but welcome back. Darn it. Let's get started. So, Banshee abilities. Passive. Banshee's weapons don't make sound. Does this matter? Let's come back to this and we'll see what chat has to say. I have always felt like weapons being silenced in Warframe was not like actually a thing that really mattered in practice, unless you wanted to pursue a certain playstyle, but I would like to hear what you all have to say. This is the kind of ability where I'm really happy we're streaming. Sonic Boom. It's a cone-shaped knockback. It does whatever damage. It has an augment that removes enemy armor, very similar to a lot of other augments that do that. You don't need very much strength to remove all of it. Without its augment, I don't think this is very good. With its augment, it pushing enemies back is awkward, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, easily removing all of enemy armor is very good. Sonar. This is a pretty unique one. You create these spots on enemies. Now they glow really loudly, so it's a little difficult to see exactly where, but when you shoot them, you get a very, very big damage multiplier. This is kind of the dynamite for Banshee. Not that there's no point using her if you don't want to use this, but this is a big payoff. This is a powerful damage buffing ability. This is something that Banshee is using to kind of make up for the relative squishiness going on here. That is quite powerful. It has an augment that makes it propagate when you hit a sonar spot, which we will come back to later. Silence, weird one. This creates a ring around you. Inside of the ring, there's no sound, which begs the question, what's up with the silencing passive? She already has. Anyway, when enemies cross the threshold, they get staggered. You can build this with some kind of range and high duration to have kind of a radius around you. When enemies breach that radius, they'll get staggered. Or you can build very low duration and use it as a button that staggers enemies, and then you can't refresh the ability, but the duration is very low, so it'll immediately come back. Kind of an option there. I think high duration is probably what we're going to talk about for a lot of the stream today, but it's an interesting option. And then Soundquake. Another really weird one. It's a channeled ability. It propagates through the environment, does a bunch of damage, staggers enemies. It doesn't do very good damage on its own, in my experience. Its augment makes it kind of a different ability. It's not channeled anymore. It concentrates the damage. I also personally don't plan to discuss this that much, but I would love to hear if you would like to. I do think with the augment, it can be a pretty interesting burst damage, like you just click it and a bunch of damage happens ability. So that's something to think about. Right, so let's catch up on chat. Now, I don't really have a lot of stuff I was already doing with Banshee, so I'm going to reset my builds because I haven't played Banshee that much for a while. And we're going to start by making something that people have mentioned in chat already and kind of go from there. I think it's really nice to have a benchmark. When you're making a build, it's nice to sit on a bench. And I think the best way to sit on a bench with Banshee is to start with something that is clearly going to be like a reasonable choice. The Gloom is what we've been talking about in chat. And then we'll just go from there. Does that sound cool? Let's do that. And I think that we should use Gloom in place of Soundquake. Does that jive with people? The simple reason is that I feel like Gloom is good with silence because they're slowed. So when silence staggers them, they stagger slower. They have that stagger animation, but they can't complete it as quickly. So it kind of lengthens the stun. Sonar is a really good damage ability. That one's probably not too hard to sell to people. And then with Sonic Boom, the augment does remove enemy armor. I'm not sure how that will feel with Gloom, but I think I'm probably going to use that more than I'm going to use Soundquake in a build with Gloom. That's my thinking. Does that make sense? So let me catch back up on chat, but that's where I am right now. And Infinigen, welcome back. I hope that answered your question about what Gloom was. Made you wait a minute while I was finishing my explanation, but I hope you now have a visual example of it too. Pretty interesting ability to have in the helmet system. There aren't very many channeled abilities that you activate and then you leave on. And it's, it's lifesteal. It's a pretty powerful slow as well. The radius is quite good. So yeah, a pretty potent ability. Lifesteal on guns is like really good. Silence is the one that staggers. I thought that was the earthquake. They both do. Let's demonstrate the slower stagger thing. It sounds like people are sort of fine on me getting rid of soundquakes, so let's do it for now. And remember, we can always no. We can always make something different. We can always make more. For now, we will inject the magic. Become the space wizard. Delicious. Right, we ride. We'll feed the Dusa and put some build on the bones. Ooh, I've fed this part a lot lately. It's very important to feed your helmet. That's like half of these streams because we use helmet abilities so much. Just catching back up on chat about the Silence Gloom combo. Silence plus Gloom is commonly used for fast affinity farming, since the stagger removes alerted state. The longer it lasts, the longer they're unalerted. Interesting. Okay, that's something. I'm not going to talk too much about that like stealth or unalerted affinity farming in this stream, but that's interesting. I didn't know that. We'll begin by adding the augments that I feel like I want. Sonic Fracture and Resonance. So I mentioned these briefly before when we talked about the abilities, but to briefly overview, Sonic Fracture reduces enemy armor. It's affected by strength, so at very low, you need a little strength, but not very much. It will remove all enemy armor in a cone. Pretty decent, I think, but it does push enemies backward, which is not often desirable. But I would like to try it. The value is theoretically there, Resonance makes sonar propagate, so for its remaining duration, it will spread when you shoot a sonar spot. My experience is this is really good. It basically saves you a bunch of energy in practice. But yeah, the duration of Banshee's sonar and silence are very good at base, so that's another plus here. We don't need to build a bunch of duration for those to be relevant. They both have 30-second duration already. Sonic Fracture's duration doesn't usually matter because if enemies have no armor and sonar spots, they're going to die. So it's okay if the duration... We could maybe even make the duration lower, although I'm not rushing out to do that. The damage multiplier on sonar is also quite high at base. So there's not necessarily some urgent need to stack a bunch of strength. This is shaping up very well. If we want a lot of space to keep Banshee durable and flexible, it looks like we don't need to spend a lot of space to get a min-maxed offensive benefit. So let's, first order of business, max out Sonic Boom's Sonic Fracture armor reduction. So we need 145 strength, I think. And there are some easy and hard ways to do that. What do I want for it? Do I want health for my health? I guess. So then we could do like Intensify Vitality. This gets you there and gives Banshee some base health. Now, something that we need to grapple with is how to have a line of defense with Banshee, since her armor is really low and her base health is whatever. So that's something to think about. Do I want to use health for that, or would I rather use something else? Let me catch you back up on chat. Yatakami, welcome back. What's up? Rainmaker, welcome back. I'm doing okay. It's been a bad week, but I always enjoy this part. I might have to be gone tomorrow as well. I'll talk about that later. but it's okay. I had to get this stuff done anyway. This stuff that was unpleasant this week. Bastards are suggesting Ivara's stealth. Yes, adding a stealth ability would be a reliable way to stay alive, which is good on Banshee. She has already silenced weapons, standing still in the stealth bubble and aiming for sonar spots. That makes sense. I think that is sensible. I think if I don't like the way that Gloom feels, I would be quite inclined to add stealth, yes. I'm gonna write, if not Gloom, then stealth arrow. That would be the next direction I would go in, but I am quite interested in going for the gloom, the glam. Yeah, so again, like health on its own, it doesn't matter because we have no damage reduction, we would just die. But it's worth considering what way you'd want to use some kind of defensive buffer if Gloom and Silence are not enough, or if we're just going to go full hog on that. I think Rolling Guard is a good idea. I see that showing up in chat now, True Mr. Fruit. But I wanted to give air to the idea that, like, if we need strength anyway, what about increasing the health? It feels like you need to pay a lot to get damage reduction here. One thing that's always been a trouble with Banshee is that you can, on every frame, just put Adaptation and, like, Arcane Guardian or something. But the thing about these is that they both only activate when you have taken damage already. So if you're a piece of paper, except you have these, you're just gonna die at like on the steel, but at levels where it actually matters that you have defenses. You can kind of do something about that. That's not a total deal breaker. The main thing is Arcane Tanker. If you wanted to, you could do this. This means you deploy your Archon, you get an upfront 1200 armor. Arcane Ultimatum is pretty much accomplishing the same thing. These give you the armor part. They're kind of like Arcane Guardian, but you don't have to get damaged first. You have to do something else first. So you can keep them preemptively active. And then at that point, Adaptation kind of does the thing. Now, Banshee does have easy access to finisher kills. So if you wanted to go this route on Banshee, I think you can do it. You go Arcane Ultimatum, you're going to be hunting for finishers with Silence, and then Adaptation. And you will build up, the armor, and then you might be able to survive enough hits to do Adaptation. At that point, I would consider doing the Intensify Vitality thing. If you want to tank with your health, I think this is like perfectly reasonable. When you look at it, compared to Rolling Guard, like if this is just Rolling Guard, I'm going to drop this Arcane, and I'm going to drop Vitality here, but I was kind of already wanting the Strength. You could get it other ways. So it's not like so egregious to need to do that. But certainly Adaptation on its own is not meaningful. You're just going to get killed before that kicks in. So you can try that if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it. And I think we're going to go with Rolling Guard for now. I do think this is the sort of de facto, you have a way to stay alive, but it doesn't feel like it will be up 100% of the time, or it's got like a panic button condition. In this case, basically like you lose your energy and then you're literally just a piece of paper. You dodge roll and get the hell out of there. I probably do some operator stuff. We're probably going to go Xeneric. Rusty, you said, if we're not HP tanking, what's the benefit of Gloom's lifesteal? The slow. I mean, we're using it for the slow. The lifesteal won't do any good, but the reason it's here would be for the slow. You don't have to think that makes sense. I get what you're saying. I do think that if you do like the finisher thing, then yeah, you take advantage of lifesteal as well. That's nice, but Gloom still makes sense as an option just because we're not using lifesteal. And it does give your allies lifesteal as well. Does it give your companions lifesteal? I forget. I tested that at one point, but I don't remember. Anyway, that was kind of the point I was trying to make a little bit, Rusty, is just that it's not so silly to go for the health tanking option, and that's 5,000 bits. Wow. Rainmaker said 500 bits. $5 bill. Dragoon says, get that out of here. $50 bill. Thank you very much. Wow. Rainmaker, every little bit counts. There's no better or worse in the world of support. It's the thought that counts, and 500 pennies, that is a thought. Like, thank you. I really appreciate that. That being said, Dragoon, wow. Thank you. That is a lot of pennies. That is significantly more pennies. Thank you both very much. Anyway, just that I think gloom is sensible even if you don't want to survive with health. I do still feel it's meaningful to try to survive with health. That it's not that bad. It's not that awkward. Personally, I'm kind of interested in that. Like I like the idea of having like tanking with health as Banshee. I think that's a romance that some people might enjoy as well. It's like sort of stupid, right? But I feel like because of that, some people might enjoy it. So personally, I'm not disinterested in that. Okay. Ace, thank you for gifting 10 tier 1 subs to the community. Mocha Raid, Mr. Bubblegum, Zetra Thorn, Rainmaker Jazz, Sir Jaeger, Heroic Skeleton, Power Seeker, Blaclam, and Snake Eyes. I recognize 70% of those names. To the rest of you, welcome aboard. And Ace, thank you very much. Awfully generous of you. We are approaching the everybody subbed territory that we are often in. Welcome aboard, folks. This is the almost every week anyway, Buildcraft stream that I'm doing for every frame in the game. We're on Banshee right now. I'm going in alphabetical order and skipping frames that have not been primed yet. So we did Ash, we did Atlas, now we're on Banshee. And after Banshee, we'll be doing Chroma. Next week, I have to get a very minor surgery done tomorrow, probably. We think it's going to be tomorrow, but I may very well be recovered by next week. So we'll see. You'll know way in advance. Anyway, okay. So for now, we're going to go with the rolling guard model, but I'm not disinterested in the idea of tanking with health, and I just wanted to talk about that. But yeah, this is perfectly reasonable. I don't think rolling guard is like a bad idea. For what it's worth, I feel like this is also probably what I would go for if I was running the stealth one. Like if you did the Ivara stealth arrow, we were talking about that. This feels a little more sensible there because you will have natural moments where you don't want to stealth arrow every inch of the map, right? Getting the ability to kind of dodge roll out of the bubble and be defensive that way. I feel like that you will use that more. Maybe, okay, let's be honest. I want to do the Banshee health tanking thing. Okay. But it's perfectly reasonable not to, even if you go for Gloom. I don't have a fully stacked Arcane Ultimatum, but it really doesn't matter. You still get the armor guaranteed, and it's already 800. That is significant already. That's fine. Let's just try this. The other thing is like the rolling guard one. We all know what that's going to be like. I tend to go, I want to demonstrate something to you all that I feel like needs to be demonstrated. And this is probably fine, right? But, let's see it. I don't know. Rainmaker, thank you for 500 more bits. Awfully generous of you. It looks like we capped out the hype train as well. We will use those bits to empower our punches as we go for those lifesteal finishers. Okay, what else? Sonic Boom is Sonic Fracture maxed out, so we can reduce all armor with this. We remove all armor with it. 7.75x damage multiplier on Sonar. Gloom has a 54% slow. Now, there's a discussion about increasing the strength here. Please One Time says, Gloom does want high strength benefits from high strength, because it actually has increasing marginal benefit. Going from 90% slow to 95% slow is twice as effective, because that's how that works. So if you could fit a lot of strength, that is good. It's true. Gloom is an ability that benefits from rather high strength a lot. I would like to look at range, though, at the moment. Sonar has a pretty good radius, but especially with resonance, it's really good for it to have a big radius. And it's 35 meters at base. That's really big. Silence is 20 meter radius. Gloom is 16 once it's fully extended. Now, a concern I have about Silence and Gloom is that when enemies cross the threshold of Silence and they're staggered, I kind of want that to be like while they're in my sights, you know? I don't want that to happen while they're really far away from me. That seems kind of unnecessary. So I feel like I'm not keen on stacking all of the range, you know, which is okay. I don't think I'd want to use overextended here because it gives negative strength. But I think a little bit of range would go a long way, so I don't think it's wrong to go for that. So maybe we go stretch And cunning, I don't know. Again, maybe we take some off. I don't know, but we'll go from there. I'm gonna put an aura on. Right now I have a dash slot, which is maybe not what I'll end up wanting. Growing power is nearly always good. I've said before, I think growing power is nearly always the best aura for a lot of builds. I just think 25% strength in your aura slot is basically always active, is very difficult to compete with unless the build needs something very specific. But this is general and it's a lot. Like, it's a high value and it's a very broad effect, which is not good game balance. But what are you going to do? Another thing Mr. Fruit mentioned is Gloom would drain a ton of energy while not slowing enemies we really need to be slowing if you build a lot of range. So it's not, we don't want to just jump to a bunch of range. Like, even with only stretch, Sonar has a 50-meter range. Like, you don't really need, I don't know, like, it's not fully necessary to stack a bunch of range. But I do think a little bit is very good because the range is so good. What about enemy radar, since we're combining Gloom and Sonar? Sure, that's reasonable. Some people have mentioned before that they don't like this because it tells your allies where your enemies are, but it's okay if your allies kill your Sonar dudes, right? Does resonance not spread if it isn't you? We should check that. Sonar already pings enemies on the map. Oh, well, okay. But it's a good idea. You do want to know where they are. I want to look up the resonance thing. We'll see what the wiki has to say. Might have to test it. I think this works for anyone killing them. I don't know, but that's important. Okay, well, no enemy radar then, but it's a good idea. I personally use Brief Respite. Yeah, if you're gonna go for like the shields gating thing, then I think Brief Respite is useful. You have some benefits for using abilities rather frequently, so this is reasonable, sure. Certainly with my health tanking one, I'm not going to, but it's not a bad idea. Energy siphon, lol. You know, anyway, whatever. We'll move on. We'll just put it there. I don't know if you would really. Anyway, let's not delay discussion just because of that. Cunning drift. We might change this. Does energy siphon work with gloom type of drain? If I recall, it does. Gloom is one of those abilities that charges you energy for the number of enemies it's affecting, which, for whatever reason, the way the game is coded, these types of effects, energy regeneration, do work through those effects, or are at least not turned off when the ability is on. There's been some discussion about whether this ability, like, turns off energy regeneration when it is affecting enemies, but not when it's on but not affecting enemies. But my testing has not seemed to indicate that, so I'm gonna say that isn't how it works for now, but we'll have to find out. Yeah, but these are coded as like not technically channeling, so they should let energy regeneration through. Like Xeneric, again, I wouldn't actually entirely recommend doing this because I'm probably just going to use Energizing Dash. This build is probably going to be pretty energy hungry, so I don't. Like, you're maintaining Gloom, and then these don't cost that much. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. What else do we build? We could do efficiency. We could do some duration. We could just make it well-rounded. That's, like, fine, but kind of boring. So yeah, I mean, this is, like, the boring way. We have all the basic mods. We have basic efficiency, basic range, basic duration, basic strength, which is good on this build. But you don't, I mean, you can build more strength. None of us are going to look at you funny if you build more strength. Like, if you, I know what you people are going to do. You're going to do this. No, let me do that. Come on. You're going to do that. Yeah. Because you want Gloom to have, like, all the slow. I don't care. Like, I think that's fine. I feel like this is still a good slow. But here's the thing. Let's try it. Let's get out there and try it. Let's get out there and punch some people in the face. You know, releasing your aggression in a healthy arena. Cool. Okay, that came together rather cleanly. What about weapons? Well, I kind of like having weapons for sonar that don't require you to aim at the weak spots. I'm not lazy, you're lazy. So the Genius Wraith is a weapon that I enjoy for that. That's nice. So that's a thing you could try. But we should probably look for something that lets you enjoy your marksman-like fantasies as well. Um, like what? Like what? What weapons do people like with Banshee? I would pick the Trumna. Interesting. Why? And then we have to think about what weapon we want to do finishers with. And there are some options. This might be a good opportunity to use weapons with interesting mechanics that lack damage. I completely agree. When you are playing a Warframe that has the ability to remove all armor from enemies and give weapons 7.75 times more damage, I think that's a very good indication that you should look for mechanic-based weapons that do terrible damage. Absolutely. I'm just gonna put this here as a placeholder since I think it's a relatively obvious but really good discussion starter. This would make you invisible on the finishers. That's a good benchmark. You can do that. Should we not do that? I think we should do that. I agree. Yachigami, I think that's real smart. Audio Forces, welcome back. How you doing today? We're talking about guns that people like on Banshee with sonar. Is this the time to bring out the melee weapon with the disc? The what is it called? I don't know why I thought that motion would help me. Tesh and the Orvius. We could talk about that at some point. Stug. Ah, yes, the Stug. $69 tip. Nice. It zoomed in on Banshee's thighs when you tipped me that. Thank you very much, Audio Forces. That's incredibly generous and even better timed. Nice. The Stug. Do I own the Stug? I think I have a Stug built. I want to show you something. I've had a Stug just sit here built, waiting, lurking, for the day that they finally make this weapon not a pile of garbage that throws loogies at enemies. And yes, I know it looks like something else. Keep your head out of the gutter. But for now, meh. Glaives are also obvious since they always hit the sonar spots with the explosions. Whoa. That seems good. Why not equip the Mighty Seer? Hey, the Kuba Seer is good. I love this weapon. This is good. I don't know what your problem is. Just kidding. This weapon is a masterpiece, okay? Get out of here. Talking crap about this phenomenal weapon. Come on. I like the glaive throw idea. That appeals to me. Because it automatically hits the sonar points. Like, that's good. No, the normal seer. No. People don't. That's not a weapon. See, I typed it in and it's not real. No, this is the only one. Come on. Don't be silly. Pish posh. Posh pish. Fulmin wouldn't be a bad idea. Naturally stealthy to go with your kit, while still being heavily crit focused, large area projectile for resonance triggering. Sure, I guess. I don't think there's any benefit to being stealthy on the build we're making right now. But if you went for the one with the Ivara stealth arrow, that's a good idea. Keep in mind that she already makes every weapon silent all the time. So it being silent is an odd quirk of the Fulmin that doesn't do anything here. But this is still a very good weapon. I really like that the Fulmin is like the one firing mode is really precise, and then it's got that AoE one. That's cool. Something that came to mind for me was Nadaruk. This is probably already silent, but I don't know. To me, this weapon has a kind of fat feeling projectile. I don't know if that's actually a thing. I don't know if the projectile is actually a thick boy, but it feels like it is. So I don't know if you really need. Anyway, but that's a thought. But I think I and Yatagami, you said I thought of Nadaruk. It says it's silent in the description. Maybe it isn't, but. Delicious. To the glaive approach, that really should sit on the stealthy Banshee because of the status immunity on the arrow. That's an interesting point. What I think Bastards is talking about is that if you were to throw the glaive to do big damage, we talked earlier about how glaive explosions hit the sonar weak points automatically. That's a thing that happens. The thing is, a lot of the time, the explosion would stagger you. So Bastards is suggesting if you use Ivara's arrow, you can get status immunity while inside of the stealth area, and that would make you not get knocked back by your own glaive explosion. That's cool. I'm beginning to feel like these are different enough playstyles that we should discuss them separately. Gloom face tanking version, and then we have a stealth arrow rolling guard anti-status version. Glaive explosion. I'm just gonna write a bunch of notes. Automatically triggers sonar marks. Schiaggiati question mark. I don't hate the idea of an AoE bow, but isn't that gonna not hit the sonar marks reliably? Or is Ignis Wraith with its like fat projectiles will? I don't know. Let's try these on our ultimatum boy build. We have a free arcane slot. I like to do this when I make builds because it keeps me thinking about what other stuff I could add to the build. If you haven't added a bunch of weapons and stuff, I mean, you can use it. You can always spend this slot on like Energize or whatever. But a lot of the time the build might benefit from adding some like other thing. And I want to keep that open. So now that we've added some weapons or talked about some weapons, we could think about like, is there some kind of arcane interaction that we want to add? I want to scroll back up to that description for you recommended the Trumna, single shots on sonar spots to charge the Trumna, and then you have the charge shot. That's an interesting philosophy, like the weapons that have that charge up mechanic from the Entrati, you use the high damage to like charge them up, and then you have that big damage shot that does good damage already. That's interesting. Yatagami had mentioned Arcane Trickery before. That's something to consider. You could, like, if we're gonna do a lot of finishers, which we are gonna do a finisher regularly, you could fish for the stealth. My big thing is like we don't need the stealth at all. Like this build is set up to face tank damage. I want to talk about other weapons that like the Schiaggiati is a good choice for if you have some good reason to be doing finishers frequently, but this build doesn't like really care about being invisible that much, I don't feel. So I would like to explore other options because there are other weapons that do unique things when you do a finisher. The Trickajati, that's fun to say, is so you can dump tank mods, which we did not do. I mean, it's still fine, you know, it's not like a bad idea. But I feel you can also kind of do it wherever. Catching back up a little bit more. The Quats or Kuva Kortak is pretty good for the marksman fantasy. Oh, the Quats. Oh, Quats. This weapon is hot. Do I still have... I'm not going to say anything more about this. We're just going to do it, and you're going to see. I think we're... Hold on. Anyway. Okay, yeah, we're definitely going Quats, though. Clearly use sonar and then switch to the Sirocco. Oh, the operator weapon, the drifter weapon. That's an idea. I didn't mean that in a bad way. I just didn't have any qualification statement to say about it. I'm trying to think of other... Wait, get back here. Oh, this is killed by heavy attacks, not finishers. Damn it. Other weapons that do something special on a finisher. There are other weapons. That's really what I'm looking for. Like, what are the other weapons that you do a finisher with them and something special happens that are normally really bad, but we're just going to weave a finisher in anyway? What are those weapons? There are totally other weapons like this. I'm not crazy, right? We already talked about the Skiajati a lot. There's that Zaw, but it gives you lifesteal, which we already have. There's a Zaw Arcane. Rakta Dark Dagger. Benefits from the affinity thing we discussed before, but otherwise not in particular. Does the staff that gives an HP orb finisher? That works on corpses. But right, the broken scepter, but this is on corpses, not on finishers. Didn't Jack Cassar do something similar? Does it? Jack Tag for corpse explosions? I mean, Vulcan Blitz. Is kind of good in that case. Does Jack Cassar have an augment I don't have? Maybe. I could have sworn there were way more weapons that have some kind of finisher mechanic, though. Are there not? I feel like there totally are, and I'm just forgetting because it normally doesn't matter. Because it's irrelevant, right? But in this case, I'm being punished for my hubris. Ground finishers. There's this mod. Lethal ground attacks, it says. Well, ground finishers. And I suppose we can knock the enemies over. This is a pretty good mod. I mean, and it has the Suda effect, so it gives you more energy. The damage it does is not incredible, but it is in a big radius. It's something. I don't know, so that's a thought that's on the list. We could type in finisher and see if anything comes up. Oh. Oh, that's metallic finish. Yes, okay, thank you. Yeah, the Prisma Obex thing seems like... I still have an extra one of these. What does the Rumblejack do on a finisher? I forget what this weapon does. I'm looking up the Rumblejack. It tases the enemy. Guaranteed electricity proc. That seems not good. Gives you a 10% movement speed bonus when held. It's one of those. The Rumblejack sports a unique finisher animation where the player jabs the opponent, dealing a guaranteed electricity proc before the actual finisher damage takes place. Yeah. Thank you, Rumblejack. Very cool. That doesn't seem... Imagine choosing tasing over death. I know, they're just gonna die anyway, that's the thing. Okay, I got it. Can the mines from voltage sequence hit sonar spots? Oh my goodness. That's a deep cut. This mod is so bad. It's so bad. So Mr. Food is saying, we have big bongo damage increases. Surely this is good if you have big gungus damage increases. I do not think this is good if you have big gunga damage increases. But I will put the mod up on the screen big if it really makes you smile. However, no. Maybe, well, yeah, anyway, maybe something for a rainy day. I'm going to try my Ignis Wraith thing for now and update this build because I haven't done that in like forever. I'm going to put on Galvanized Chamber and we're going to look at the other mods. And this is fine for now. I don't... Okay. Sonar Gale Kick. Yes, please. Do I own Gale Kick? Gale Kick is the one that... Okay, bring it... No, no, no. Bring it back. Hold on one sec. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. So, yeah. I don't I'm not going to say anything about this. Uh the knockdown will synergize with gloom. That I guess. Oh, that's how you make Prisma Obex reliable. Okay, like no word of a lie, that's actually kind of cool. If somebody has a spare Gale Kick that I can keep, I would accept it and we'll do that. Oh my goodness. That is actually synergy. Something I've been thinking about that I've been hesitating to say is, so you know Entropy Detonation. You do a ground finisher. So the thing is, like, we briefly touched on this before, but like, this knocks enemies over. Like, that's stupid, but I'm just saying, like, it does. That's like, that's all I'm trying to say. It's not my fault. Okay. We're gonna make, I'm not gonna use this for anything except finishers and Gale Kicks. So we're gonna make a finisher and Gale Kick build, I guess, for this. What is that? So finisher damage. Pull up Gale Kick again. Someone go get the 100% of melee damage. What the hell does that mean, Digital Extremes? Gale Kick Warframe. Is it base damage? Is it the total damage from hitting with the melee weapon? Gale Kick min-maxing popped up on Reddit. That's exciting. Here we go. The wiki's got us. Modifiers that do affect Gale Kick. Base damage of the melee weapon. Base damage mods. Furious Javelin. Oh, the Excalibur augment. That's it. That's all. Energy Channel's bonus is permanent as long as the player does not swing their actual melee weapon to discharge the bonus damage. Oh. I think we're doing that. I think that's what we're doing. I think my Gale Kick build uses and I love that you said my Gale Kick build. That's like, you really get some points for that existing. Next question, what do you remove for Gale Kick? Oh, bastards. Don't worry, it's an Xless mod, because nothing is simple. From a game design perspective, I don't think that makes that much sense. It's like literally damage, but it's not good, so fair enough. It's an Xless mod. Fortunately, we can just we can swap it out. Very good question, you bastards. You're absolutely forgiven for feeling like, wait, so I offer my meager 18 platinum, by the way. 18 platinum is all of your tradable platinum, indeed. Thank you. We who are about to die salute you. Platinum away. This is my meager offering. I can't do anything with it anyway. It's fine. Except this. Whoa. It's literally damage people have never said about Gale Kick. I know. Since the world was new. It is technically damage, and nobody can take that away from you, Gale Kick. Thank you, Yatagami. We will now kick things for justice. I know that you do this because you're amused by seeing me, I almost said suffer, which I think was a Freudian slip. But, anyway. Alright, let's do this. Dude, the finisher Gale Kick Banshee, like, we're in business. Like, this is a real build. We're really cooking with gas now. Mods. Level that piece of garbage up. Yeah. Oh, okay, here we go. Here we go. Why are we still kicking? Just to suffer? Like, there isn't even an answer. Okay. Want Entropy Detonation. Do we Do we use the melee weapon to hit anybody? I think no. Crits? No, because for the finisher, right? Okay, so finish the things. Okay, do two things with the Obex. It carries base damage mod stacking for Gale Kick because we're all idiots, and we're gonna do finishers with it, ground finishers. Here's the thing: ground finishers do not pierce enemy armor because nothing is simple in Warframe unless they change that, in which case that makes my point. So, and also sparring weapon ground finishers hit a bunch of times. So building like status is effective because it will, pierce through that, or help you do more damage. We probably don't want to build status that removes armor because oftentimes they'll be knocked over for the ground finisher by either Gale Kick, lol, or if we're being serious, Sonic Fracture, Sonic Boom. So they already don't have armor. So basically that means viral, of course. Condition overload. Does this affect Gale Kick? Probably not, right? Finishers used to do true damage. Did they change that? Well, please one time, like I was just saying, the thing about ground finishers is nothing is simple, and they don't do true damage. Normally, standing finishers, they absolutely do. But at least the last time I checked, maybe it changed. Ground finishers don't, unfortunately. That is... You should be right. But, probably not, right? You might be surprised. Exactly, right? So condition overload feels like something that we could try. Let's leave that there for now. If we're just going to use base damage and like status, it's not like we're going to run out of space. So we'll use finisher damage. We basically just did like all of the base damage mods. Killing Blow is only on heavy attacks. We have pressure point and condition overload, so that's literally it. And now let's add viral. Just had to let out some frustration there. Yes, viral. So that when we do the ground finisher, we'll probably get viral, which will increase all the damage. Corrupt charge is base damage, no. Only for they changed this in Melee 3.0. They made it into combo. It used to be base damage, but you lost speed. What about the augments for Jaw Sword and Skana? But they don't have the entropy detonation. Dragoon, those should be base damage. That should work for Gale Kick. But I was trying to use the Obex to play with this. But that's like, use those. That's a good idea. I mean, the whole... Is Spoiled Strike still a mod? It is, but it inconsistently doesn't say melee damage because nothing is easy. Digital Extremes, I'm gonna pull my hair out. There we go. We're using this. Okay. Fortunately, Prisma Obex is quite fast, so it's okay that this cuts the speed. Oh my goodness. This is so stupid. Other things we're obviously missing. For the ground finisher, we don't have crit chance. Should we care about that? We could. Attack speed? Nah. They're slowed. The enemies are slowed. We don't need attack speed. Come on. We should make it more slow. Give them a fighting chance. Thank you all for reminding me of Spoiled Strike. That's what I was trying to think of this whole time. I think I'm gonna put this on. I don't know. It doesn't work on Gale Kick, but it works on the ground finisher. So yeah, and the standing finishers of this weapon are going to kill everything anyway, so that doesn't matter. Again, as far as we know, condition overload doesn't work with Gale Kick. It might, but it does work for the ground finishers, and I think that's likely pretty good. A big damage increase. Yeah, if we wanted, but is it a bigger damage increase for the ground finishers than crit damage? No, probably not. So we should run crit damage. Okay. There you go. And Prime Fever Strike, people are saying, is probably better in this particular situation. That's true. Just got to color coordinate them. This gives so much more damage as viral and increases the likelihood we get a viral status effect to the point that it's probably better even though we're looking for the viral thing. So I like this. This is fine for now. I don't know about the melee stance. I'm not actually going to use it. The wiki does say we should include this. The wiki says that energy channel will apply to Gale Kick as long as you don't like hit with the melee weapon. Do we care? 200 bonus damage on the next melee attack. That isn't that much. Anyway, okay, let's try it. Let's try using it. This is a stupid build. Let's go play it in a real mission without testing it first. Yep. And let's see. Let's not be just literally stupid, so we won't immediately go Steel Path and just instantly get killed and be done with that. But we're still gonna do it live, and we're gonna do it live with but it's gotta be something that like bites back at it, right? Kuva survival? Should we do Kuva survival? We could break and let people log on in the next 5 minutes and do Kuva survival with this build. That's stupid, but like, I'm stupid, so it's fine. Shall we? Kuva survival seems a bit much. We're definitely doing it. Can I bring my Gale Kick build too? I wouldn't have it any other way. What the hell? Who are you people? Like, I know Rusty. You've been here for a long time. I just like... Sometimes when people talk about, when I tell people about my job, like, I explain, and it's like... They listen to me, but then there's this thing in the air, like... But do people watch that? And I'm like... Yes? No? They're kind of both are true. I don't know. They're like, and you make money. And I'm like, well, yes. People tip me $69. So yes. And they're like, but there's only like 40 people watching the stream. And I say, yes. And they say, but it's a sustainable job. And I say, well, it's, it's almost... I just sort of laugh nervously. And then this is my dentist, so she just keeps cleaning my teeth. Scrapes a little harder than before. Let's break, and then we're gonna yeah. Yeah. That's what we're gonna do. I need to go get some water, so I don't care what you guys think anymore. We're gonna go do the thing. I'd like to clarify before I go that I don't enjoy playing builds that are just silly. I don't enjoy that. I don't find that fun or interesting. I'm not interested in things that are clearly not going to work and just do something silly. I just don't find that fun. That's not fun to me. What's fun to me about this is that it kind of makes sense. Like, it's sort of a good build. Like, it will probably be fine. I bet the Gale Kick part will be bad, but like, it's just Gale. We just take that off. It's fine. What's funny to me, really, what's enjoyable to me about this idea is that we weren't doing anything related to Gale Kick, and we assembled a build that like is probably a good Gale Kick build as much as there are good Gale Kick builds. That's what interests me. Gale Kick is stupid and bad. Like, it's just bad. And to me, that is uninteresting. There's a million things like that in every game. That's not special to me. So no offense, I don't find that interesting on its own. What is novel to me is like, that might actually work in this build. I don't know, like probably not, but if you can get the Gale Kick to hit the sonar spots and the enemy has no armor, that could kill enemies. That might kill something. I don't know, like maybe. We could try it. And again, like I had a reason why I wanted to use this weapon anyway for this build. So I don't know, why not? We'll give it a try. I don't hate fun, but personally, I'm not interested in testing every little thing or trying every silly idea. And because we've been memeing about this a lot, I wanted to clarify that. I'm a person who builds things for a living, and my logic is sometimes misunderstood. I feel that's my fault. So I thought I would take the opportunity to talk a little bit about, like, to me, what is the fun part. It's okay if that's not the fun part to you. That's fine. I don't begrudge you that. But that's why, to me, it's like, huh, that's a funny coincidence. Like the emergent buildcraft of, like, I have a whole video about this too, about how Warframe kind of, there's this fun thing in Warframe where when they put Gale Kick in the game, the thing about Warframe's balance is a lot of it is not, it's not the game's strong suit. And so a lot of things are put in the game and, like, there's nowhere it's intended to be good. It's just not good anywhere specifically. So it's really special and amazing when you're humming along and you look at a build and you think, what the heck, that's a Gale Kick build. Like, because no one ever intended that. Like, there's no place it's, like, designed to be good, really, you know? That would be good if it was, but it's not. A lot of games are designed that way, but this one isn't. So it's quite uniquely funny to me when you find a build and it's like, this is a place where that makes sense. So we'll see. And the worst thing is you just take it off and run Cunning Drift. It's fine. I wanted to catch back up on chat and thank some people for supporting the stream. So let's do that. Yelling. Snake Eyes, Rainmaker, and Mocha Raid recently got gifted subs by Asymptomatic. Thank you very much for your generosity, gifting 10 subs to the stream. You have given much more than that over time, and I really appreciate every bit of it. You said, I am maybe back from a brownout. Each of my monitors throws a fit, and my umpteen windows lose their placement. I have them arranged in a very specific way, and it is the frustrate. I completely understand. The Frustrate is my memoir, The Frustrate, an autobiography by The Troubles. Anyway, Ace, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And thank you to all the new follows. I hope you enjoy your time aboard the Zandy Vessel. Trying to create a dedicated Gale Kick build would probably be worse than whatever this is. You could probably do it. It's just like, why? You've made a very, very complicated finisher that looks really cool, which might be the reason why. Just for me, that's not, I don't know. That does not excite me on its own. But this, oh, I don't know. Quickly before we go, wouldn't Corpus be biting back against this build more since they have shield gating and a percent of their HP is going to land on the shields of surrounding enemies, but then the armor strip makes less sense? Well, the Gale Kick part has a problem with that, but nothing else does. And it's important to remember this isn't meant to be a Gale Kick build. It is a build that the build previously known as a Gale Kick. It's a build that features Gale Kick. Okay, I gotta go. I'll be back in a few, and then we shall kick. Behold my glorious Twitch archive parlay segment, where I answer questions from people who watch previous stream archives as a way to entertain you while I hit the restroom during today's show. This is Past Zandy here. Recorded this just before the show started today, so you'd have something to watch while present future Zandy was taking a piss. I got 2 questions today. The first one is from Quiet Canary, who says, what is the smallest change you could make to one of the Warframe augments to make the most enjoyable and impactful change? The smallest change. That's hard. Smallest, like the smallest amount of developer work, or what I perceive as being the least work for the developer. Smallest is in the smallest functionality change, like the smallest change from the player's perspective. I don't know if I can even think of one. Smallest. Well, asking it that way, okay, so I'm just gonna try to think of small ones. What are some augments you could make small changes to that would make a big gameplay difference? Small from the player's perspective, Atlas has that augment where you become a rumbler. You can't jump. That is small from the player's perspective. Very minor change. You would expect to be able to jump. That's a minor thing, but it would make a very, very big, impactful gameplay. It would make it playable, basically. Making it do more damage would help. But I expect that for the developer, that's not a small change. So that's, and then how about a developer small change that would, yeah, there are some like numerical buffs for augments. Again, I don't know about smallest. I have no authority about what would be the smallest, but something like some of the augment buffs that we got demonstrated that the developers seem willing to increase the power level of those effects, but I didn't think that they increased the power level enough for some of them. So maybe it would be reasonable to say like just change that number a little bit more. That's small from the developer's perspective, right? I hope. It's not a lot of work at the very least. So something like Inaros's Sandstorm Augment. I just feel like the numbers need to get buffed even more, or it could make the ability less expensive or something like that. So it would be a change like that, I guess. So those are two different interpretations of small. I hope that kind of answers your question. Those are just two examples. There's way too many augments to answer in any complete way like this. And then Dragoon asks if you could change one thing, another change question. If you could change one thing, just anything, it doesn't need to be Warframe, what would you change? One big thing and one small thing. Wait, that's two things. What's going on? Did you all coordinate some kind of change themed day? Okay, change one thing about reality. Well, two things, right? Because one big thing, one small thing. What is this question? Okay. An answer I've heard before to a question like this is the okay. So this is my answer for the big one. There are some aspects of human society that appear to have progressed to the point where they did because of kind of tribalism, basically. The human tendency to take sides and be reductive and just stupid and insufferable appears to be somewhat necessary. It appears that some of that is why we became an organized society. The same way that it seems like fossil fuel was kind of inevitable with the way human nature works if we were going to industrialize. And so that just kind of became, again, like we could have not done it, but from a cause and effect perspective, it's kind of a necessary evil. It'd be impossible, but very good if we got to this point using that toxic human tribalism tendency. If we could now retroactively get rid of it, that would be very good. It wouldn't be good to get rid of it from the start because then we would probably never organize this way. That's a theory. But if we could now get rid of it, that would be kind of good. Or like become a post-scarcity society. That would be a big one. Like create nanomachine run factories in every town and city that can manufacture using like random matter from the environment any object that people need within reason. So like you can fabricate a car for yourself every like month. If you crash them too often, then it doesn't work. To conserve resources, but they could basically just assemble them. There's no reason machines couldn't do these things. And then we can immediately stop having a monetization-based society and move on as a species. You could say something more drastic, like give us space technology or infinite energy, although this basically would give you infinite energy. But personally, I feel like the biggest roadblock is that people don't care about anything actually important because they have to be distracted by things that they need to do to stay alive. And getting rid of that would allow us to all make progress as people in a more efficient way. So that's a really big one. I spent all my time saying a big one. Oh, what's a small one? Get rid of COVID? I don't know. That's not that small. What's small? What does small mean? Give me the supernatural ability to... This is just wishes. Well, it's too late now. Give me the supernatural ability to mediate my body temperature and repel mosquitoes. Is that small enough? I don't know. I just want to explore the wilderness without worrying about being uncomfortable. Is that so much to ask? On with the show. I don't know. Oh. Why, hello there. Welcome back. This means it's time to depart. We have Lord Rusty joining us as a Gale kicker. Anybody else want to come? Are we doing that? Doing it live? We're going to do Kufa survival. You got a little existential on us, Captain. I don't make the questions. Dragoon and Quiet Canary got existential on you. I don't know. What was I supposed to answer? I'm not gonna try to fix this crappy society. I don't know. Seems wrong. In the grand scheme of things, COVID is pretty small, so I'd say that's fair. Yeah, that's what I thought, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, fixing human tribalism is also pretty small. Everything is small. I don't know. But, yeah, it's bigger than COVID, right? Sorry, Yatagami, it's been not a week. But yeah, anyway, we'll do public because we don't have a full pre-made, which is perfectly fine. I think it's also good meme value for the other players that will see what we're doing. Is this gonna be okay? Hey, Ragnavar, sure, yes. I don't really need any of those. So we go. Right, we're gonna see if the survivability feels good. We're gonna feel out the magnitude of the slow. There was some discussion on, like, I didn't build very much strength. We have kind of the, I would say, minimum amount of strength I'd want on this build. Sonic Fracture removes all enemy armor, but that's it. I didn't go any further. Really. So the slow is not like stacked, which I think is fine, but let's see. We want to know if we're gonna survive. We want to see how big bongo the damage is. We're gonna try a few different weapons for big bungus levels of damage. We're gonna try Gale Kick, and we're gonna try Entropy Detonation. Those are the things. Ragnavar, no problem at all. Having some people that aren't using Gale Kick will keep us alive. Come forth! Okay. We have our Rave Fields. Oh, look at this big bungus level. Whoa. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. That's glorious. Look at those sonar targets. Oh, sonar's so broken. Ooh. Okay, all right. That's obviously very good. Let's find some unsuspecting subjects. Pow. How do you there we go. No, wait. Oh. 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 It works. It's very hard to hit enemies with, but I mean, sure. Anyway, great. Yeah, we got that done. I want to try the ground finisher thing. Oh, that was just a punch. That was a normal punch. Okay. I'm out of energy. Kind of as expected after all of that random trolling. We didn't bring a companion. Can't help but feeling that we could just be attacking with a melee weapon, but the point is to look at the damage. Me being bad at hitting with Gale Kick is not a criticism of the build. The criticism of the build is that you could just kill them by doing this instead. I just want to know if it does good damage. We can figure out if there's a reason to apply that later. Nobody is under any illusions that this is an inefficient way to play. You don't need to make sure people know that. But for what it's worth, I do feel like these builds sometimes they find some way to prove that they should exist. Mostly not, I think. Is there anyone who's good at hitting with Gale Kick? Yeah, like another member of the audience, other than me, who can then take over the stream from here. Yeah, I don't know if I would include the Gale Kick mod, but it's, you know, well, here's the thing too. So when you Gale Kick, when you do your kick, because the Prisma Obex, I'm using Prisma Obex, and because I want an entropy detonation has that syndicate ability that gives you energy. So you do actually gain some energy from taking out the kick and gale kicking people, because you temporarily take out your thing that can charge up the entropy detonation, the entropy effect from Cephalon Suda, excuse me. So that's like not exactly a reason, but it's not a reason not to do it, I guess. And they are dying, it does kill what it sets out to kill. Feels like you probably want Arcane Energize. Energy has been a bit of a problem. I think we should explore building efficiency on this build. I don't think it needs... I feel like the slow has been adequate. I don't think we need more damage. I don't think we need more duration. I think this build, I kind of want efficiency. So I'm gonna write that down in the notes. I'm gonna hide somewhere. Also, we need to pick a companion. I can't believe I forgot that. I hardly ever do a mission without a companion on purpose, but when I do these streams, I like to keep the companion slot open, so I don't forget that I want to think about what companion I want to use, just like I do with the Arcanes. And I didn't do that for this one. You can start thinking about a companion. If you have companion suggestions, I would love to have them, hear them. This is a fairly energy-hungry build, though. That's, like, it is. That's true. Oh! Jump, aim glide, then hit control crouch in the desired WSD direction. Oh, okay. That... Huh. While I was reading your description, I started doing it, and I was like, wait, that's good. Oh, well, sort of. Okay. Time to test if the build is survivable. That's not a finisher? How do you even do finishers anymore? Okay, well, anyway. Isn't there a mod set that affects aerial attacks? You could do that to maximize the kick, which I wasn't particularly trying to do, but if you wanted to, that's a thing you could do. The jumping before you kick thing kind of helps me. Thank you, Pixel. That's actually useful. I feel like the survivability feels good so far, as long as you have the slow active. But I'm maybe just like really bad at doing finishers or something. Like I'm not actually getting finishers off. I don't know if I need this, but sure. Right, I'm gonna write a note about companion efficiency. Several notes. Cool, very successful testing. We could go back in a minute. Or you can stay. And I'll pop out to continue. It's got to be the MOA for maximum kick, right? If you want, if you want to do kick memes, then you could go. You could go for hard engage. I have a whole video on hard engage. Yep. That's sure. You could. I just want to like. Does so much damage. So much damage. Oh, gross. And there is a mod set that affects aerial attacks. It makes them have longer range, right? If you wanted to do that for the kick, for Gale Kick, that might aerial attack mod set for Gale Kick range. I don't particularly know if I feel like there's any business doing that on this build, but you well could. I have no power to stop you, despite my desires to have such power. Unfortunately, I cannot do anything to stop you from doing that, so yes, I believe that technically you could. Do I not have Xeneric? I do not have Xeneric. Is that true? I might have had no energy regen most of this time. That would change things. That, because then we probably don't need efficiency. That was actually not bad if I didn't have energizing dash. I don't have energizing dash, do I? Derp. Would reduced gravity on aim glide make the kick easier to use? Does the kick have follow through? These are the questions that I don't have to answer. But imagine if the kick had follow through, lol. Energizing dash doesn't work when there are enemies in gloom, if I recall. I've heard that a lot of times, and I don't know if that's true. So I want to confirm that quickly. I'm gonna do that. That's important, so let me do that quickly right now. It's not very hard to do. We'll just jump into this mission. Energizing dash with gloom in my notes. Okay, that's how slowly it drains with energizing dash. Thank you for fulfilling my dreams of killing reasonable enemies with Gale Kick. Absolutely. That is a very good way to word what we just did. Alright, I'm waiting for energizing dash to wear off. Hey, shut up. There we go. Just gotta assert dominance on that alarm. Let it wear off. Activate it again. Look at the drain speed with the similar amount of enemies inside of it. I would say the thing about energizing dash not working while gloom is draining seems true. This is an obnoxious type of thing to test, and it should just be consistent and not work. But yeah, I think it doesn't work. So thank you for asking about that. We should have tested it earlier. We know that now. Now that we know that, efficiency probably a thing that we're gonna want to do. Yeah. Let's take a look at that. Pow. Efficiency. All right, so let's see. I don't think the build really needs more range either. So just as a brief aside, we memed a lot about Gale Kick, but for what it's worth, I don't really think Cunning Drift is that amazing here. I feel like you don't particularly need more range on this build. It's not bad, obviously. Like, just use Cunning Drift, but if you found this amusing, like, it's fine, and I don't really feel like it loses the build that much. I don't think you would be remiss for including, like, a mobility mod on this build. For what it's worth, these are kind of good with Gloom, because when enemies get knocked over or like stunned by the electricity or the heat, sorry, I was blocking lightning dash, the status effects on these, you know, the slow is good with that. So, I mean, these are kind of always reasonable, but I don't know, man, like Gale Kick is funny here. Why not? Power Drift would not be terrible. Like, strength on Gloom is good. I don't think you really need it, but it's good. And it, you know, it's more damage than sonar. I really don't think you need that. Earlier we were talking about a variant with Ivara's stealth arrow, and if you were interested in doing that, I think that, you know, you might want to get the strength some other way than Umbral Intensify, and so maybe you want Power Drift there. That's something to think about. You're right. Energy Siphon, I just want to remind myself that that doesn't work, so I'm just going to put enemy radar up there for now. Enemy radar up there for now. This is bad. I thought it was funny, but yeah. And like, I don't think you do want to do finishers though. I don't know why I wasn't getting finishers off easily, but if enemies are all dying and you can't get a finisher off to get armor with Arcane Ultimatum, then you don't need it. So that's fine. Yeah, there's a part of me that feels like probably use a glaive so the explosion does the weak point thing, and then like you'll get staggered, but it's fine because everything is dead. But anyway, I'll leave this here for now. I didn't try the quats, I'll try that next time. This weapon is disgustingly powerful with sonar, so I'm just gonna leave it on. The jack attack thing sounded kind of cool. I would be down to do that a little bit. Might as well get rid of Zeneric because it doesn't work for this. I don't know. Right, and then I want to talk about companions and then efficiency. Um, what do I want to talk about efficiency? What do we want to add efficiency? I guess you could drop duration. That's not going to make Gloom's efficiency better, though. And you don't really... Well, if you did fleeting, these are cheaper. Like, your sonic booms are cheaper and stuff. This ability also got a bit cheaper. Like, if you go streamline, it's 3.39 energy, and this is 3.16. So not much cheaper. You can begin the ability much cheaper. That's fine. And the drain didn't get that much better. But when you recast Silence and Sonar and Sonic Boom, those are cheaper. If you have Energize, this is definitely a build where it's really good. That must be said, of course. I don't like to make builds that I feel like rely on Energize because people do not have a full Energize. But for what it's worth, Banshee does have a lot of energy. So you have some wiggle room. If you can generate a lot of energy somehow, you can hold it for a while. So I don't know, maybe fleeting is fine here. Like, I guess I would rather have it than streamline. You don't particularly need these abilities to last longer than they do. And of course there are options for companions that make more energy. You could use Death Cube. Now, I don't think that this build is killing enemies in a way that is particularly good with Energy Generator. You're often kind of close to them. You're not grouping them up. Those things are not always ideal for Energy Generator because Death Cube companions only target one enemy at a time. So it's not bad, of course. It is a way to generate energy. But I think it's worth noting that this build doesn't play to the strengths of Energy Generator. So it's not going to be a huge difference, but it's definitely something, of course. Every discussion should begin with that. We're talking about companion energy, Death Cube. The Sahasa Krubro gets a mention. Dig generally doesn't trigger very well in combat. But if you're standing around, if you stand still, your Krubro will dig up a bunch of energy if you need it. That's a thing. If it's attacking enemies, that can be a problem. It's not very consistent in combat, but it's not like it's not a thing you can do. The minor energy gains, like, I want to compare those to Cordon. This seems really good always, and I do think this build benefits from grouping enemies up. You just don't really need it. But yeah, that's, like, those are all things you can do. Again, if you were to go the Death Cube route, like, we can try that. I think people would probably like to see how much that makes a difference. This is probably a build where I want to maximize Energy Generator. A lot of the time, I like using the Verglis because it does so much damage and it's still good at hitting multiple enemies. But I think this is a build where if we really want that much energy, I'm going to go for the Hellstorm and maximize that. Here's that build. There's not a lot to say. It's just the mods that make it hit more enemies. So that's a thing. Yeah, it doesn't do amazing damage, but they all don't compared to the Verglis, so. You have a lot of lifesteal from Gloom. Which companion would benefit the most from that? Would a companion benefit meaningfully from that? That's a thought. We do have lifesteal that could affect our companion. Do we want to do something with that? It's a thought. Do we go Helios and really double down on weak points? Oh, we can talk about that. I don't think it's a good idea, but I'll talk about why. Detect vulnerability basically makes your Helios occasionally put a weak point on enemies. Now, the frequency of this is very low. It doesn't happen very often. The main reason I don't recommend this is it just happens so rarely that it doesn't really do anything. And this build already does such a hilarious amount of damage. But when the 2 weak points overlap, you do a disgusting, a despicable amount of damage, which doesn't, like, really matter. Now, if you really wanted that to work, something that comes to mind is you could use gas damage, and you already do an insane amount of damage anyway. We should probably just use gas damage anyway on this build. Anyway, and on the very rare occasion that you hit that Helios double weak point, it would proc gas, if you're proccing a bunch of gas, and then the gas damage would linger after they died, and it would be a huge value. I'm talking myself into this. That's actually kind of cool. I'm not sure if it will actually feel cool. You might not notice, right? But we could try it, yeah. When using the Helios, you could use the Constructor. I don't think you should, so I'm just going to put the Verglis on. Yeah, we can try that. If you have Energize, you don't need Death Cube here, I don't think. So that's something to try. I'll certainly put it on. And we can try it. We'll see if we notice it. For that, we're going to want to build a pure Heat Ignis. So basically just this exact build, but with heat damage. Easily done. I mean gas. I meant to say gas every time, you know. Want a lot of status. It doesn't matter how much damage it does because we do such a ridiculous amount of damage. And I keep forgetting what mods I want here. Hunter Munitions. Yeah. Point Strike, Vital Sense. Crit. Still want Vile. Don't think I want to use Hunter Munitions. We don't really need it, is the main point. Yeah. Okay. So that's something. If you feel that you'll be fine with just Energized for the energy, that's a cool thing you could try. I can try to demonstrate that and see if it works out. So just to review, Detect Vulnerability gives a sonar mark, much like Banshee's sonar. Now they stack. So if you happen to hit the Detect Vulnerability and the sonar at the same time, you will do an insane amount of damage. But it doesn't matter because the enemy would have died anyway. One way to maybe make it matter that might work would be doing gas damage. When the gas status effect activates on the big bongo damage, gas damage lingers in the area after the enemy dies. That might make the extremely high, very rare, doesn't normally matter, occasional damage spike from this actually affect other enemies. Again, I'm not sure that really matters because if you point your Ignis at a group, they will all just die. So will you notice? But I don't know. If enemies are streaming into an area, maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. But I wanted to stress about this. It happens quite infrequently. So on the surface, I don't think this is very meaningful. You also already do so much damage with this build, but we could try it. We could certainly try it out. Nerthoff, welcome aboard. You've come at a good time. We're gonna see some serious spice. Unless it's been changed, which it may have, and we have no way to know, really. I don't believe sonar multiplies the ticks. Haven't checked since Kuvalich's release, but this did not work with the old gas procs. It probably still doesn't. Like, I have a feeling that doesn't really work. And again, it's just going to kill the big group of enemies anyway. Would you all... Maybe it would be more valuable, instead of that meme that we're not actually going to get any data about, I think it would be more valuable to show you all how much Death Cube makes a difference for the energy economy. That probably makes the most sense, don't you think? And again, while the Verglis does do a decent job of getting assists, you can build electricity, like, it's not bad at that. This is significantly better, in my opinion. It's just way less damage. Normally, I'm not sure I feel like that's worth it, but if you really need the energy, I feel like that is meaningful. So you can kind of take it or leave it. Somebody mentioned focus changes too, by the way. The little that I heard about the focus changes, it doesn't really seem like they're changing. They're just making it good. They're not like really changing what you can do though, as far as I can tell. So I don't think that ignoring focus is warranted because of the focus changes that are coming. It looked like they were trying to just make things good, not make things totally different. Now, I don't know for sure. That's just kind of the impression I got. So yeah, I don't think we need to ignore focus just because it's changing soon, because of the type of change. People are interested in doing some kind of, oh yeah, like arcane eruption with energy generator. That's silly, but I'll put it on. I have it. This knocks enemies down when you get an energy orb. Can be cool. It's good for the ground finishers on the Prisma Obex with entropy detonation, which isn't that good. but that is good with it. If you plan to use this, it's good with that. But it's not that good to do that, so I don't know. Let's give it a try. And that'll be, excuse me, about all the time we have. Now, the level of survivability is entirely suitable for the steel path, so we shall go. Delicious. Crisp, refreshing water. All right, I'll also try to test out the quats a little bit because I didn't really showcase that before. Ow. So when you hear that noise, that's eruption going off. Being inside the silence makes it sound like you're underwater, which I kind of like. This weapon's damage is so bad. Ah. The gas is alright, though, so far. Ooh. So good. Nice. Yeah, the gas damage thing is fine. You're still gonna kill enemies, but it does great AoE. And then, yeah, we were going to test the energy. It does feel better, but I do have allies killing a lot of enemies in a local area, which is hard. It's hard to test, you know. I'll see you later, Mr. Fruit. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning into these, folks. The builds are a lot more interesting than what I would have made myself every single time because of you. And Nerthoff, I'm happy to talk about that. I'm going to wait till the end of this in a few minutes, and then, yeah, we can dig into that a bit. That's okay. A little off topic, but it's generally about making builds. It might behoove you to have some grouping. See, that's what I think. I think, like, if you have Energize, use the Nautilus on this build, I think. If you have Energize, I don't think you're going to have energy problems with this build, and the Nautilus is a pretty big step up. Also, I personally feel like I kind of miss the duration. I feel like I'm having to recast silence and sonar a little bit more often than I want to. So me personally, I think as a preference thing, I'm going to go back to streamline and primed continuity as a point of preference. But in some ways, I think it's better to use fleeting. You do get a lower upfront cost for the abilities, but I just find it annoying to have to recast this often. I gotta say, we're not having any trouble surviving, I guess as you might expect, because the enemies can barely move when we get near them. What about Equilibrium instead of Streamline? Normally, Equilibrium doesn't do very much. Health Orbs are extremely infrequent in normal gameplay. You do make more with your Sentinel, so that's not to be neglected. But in my experience, Equilibrium doesn't give you a lot more energy most of the time because there are not health orbs are just not a common drop. It does depend on your sentinel. This would be a thing where if we go Nautilus and then we run the Verglis on it, and it's going to actually kill enemies at this level, or it'll be moving from enemy to enemy, killing them. It will hit a lot of enemies, so you might make kind of a lot of health orbs. You could try it. Personally, I don't think it's a replacement for Streamline, though. I would want both. The abilities, I really still want them to cost less energy. It's still a lot of energy you're paying. That's just my instinct. It's something you'd always want to try. I think Equilibrium is an interesting mod worth discussing, but on builds that don't specifically make more health orbs, I would caution confidence in Equilibrium. But it's not a bad idea. Again, especially if you could run it and Streamline, get a little bit of both. Torment just got owned. Yeah, I like the Gloom, like, health tanking Banshee thing. I'm enjoying how this feels so far. I'd really want to more reliably get finishers. I also want to reduce the range a little bit. I just feel like never... Am I doing finishers wrong? You still walk up to enemies and click your finisher button. Or did they change it to be a separate button, right? There we go. Yeah. Could you showcase the ground finisher AoE? I've been trying and it hasn't been triggering, but I'll do my best, yeah. Our enemies just haven't been knocked over enough for me to... Oh! But that's just a heavy attack. I've been trying to do ground finishers for the whole stream and it hasn't been happening. They haven't been... There we go. And as you can see, like, it's just not a very powerful mod. I mean, to be fair, at this level, it's like, would you really expect? Without grouping, entropy detonation is just not that good. But it does give you more energy. It's a pseudo mod, so you do get the entropy effect. So I don't know. It's only okay. Bastards, the ground finisher AoE from entropy detonation is 10 meters, but the damage diminishes radially. So unless enemies are rather tightly packed, it's not very good. It won't do very good damage out very far. But that would be a reason to use the Nautilus. So yeah, I'm gonna say the Nautilus. I'm gonna play around with a few, adjust a couple. The Death Cube thing, if you feel like you need the energy and you don't have Arcane Energize, I think you should do that. But otherwise, I feel like grouping feels like it would benefit this build a lot. It's just good in Warframe to group enemies up. And then I have Energize, and this is a build that really gets a lot out of it. I try not to slap this on every build. I think if there's an easy solution that isn't Energize, it's like Arcane slots are good. You can get lots of other good stuff from Arcanes. I try to treat this as a last resort because it is. You do lose a lot of damage on some weapon by equipping this, but it does solve the energy thing. It's the nuclear option for energy. But I feel this build kind of earns that a bit. And the Jack-a-Tag, I don't have time to test everything. The Jack-a-Tag, by comparison, I will show you both mods, though. This is 20% enemy max health as blast damage. In a 10-meter radius, it diminishes with range. And the Jack-a-Tag has... it's a higher percentage of their health. It's 60%, but only in a 6-meter radius. In a lot of ways, I think this is sort of better. If you're not going to do the Gale Kick memes from earlier in the stream, I think, like, if you want this on your melee doing finishers on this build, yeah, like the Jack-a-Tag is a good option. But these effects in general are not that good on this build because we're not grouping enemies together very consistently. So personally, I was mostly interested in the Prisma Obex, not because it has this for the ground finishers, but because it is also a pseudo effect. It gives you more energy, and we were already doing that silly thing with Gale Kick. This just happened to check a lot of boxes at once. So kind of something to take or leave, but I don't think those AoE explosion ones are good unless you group enemies up because they diminish with range. Like the Sobek has a really good one, and the Jakatag one is really good. If enemies are all tightly grouped up, like in Larva, those are very powerful mods. But on this type of build, I don't think it's that good. So that's, I think this is my I'm not going to use the quats, but my final option, my final set of mods for this build. We'll have a quick denouement. I do want to address the very core to the discussions of Buildcraft question that Nerthoff asked. I do like to leave room for some more general discussion in these. We don't always do framework, but if you enjoyed these, if you want to do more frames, I'm going in alphabetical order and we're skipping primes, or frames that have not been primed, excuse me. So we just did Ash, Atlas, and Banshee today, and next week we are planning to do Chroma. So if you're interested in that, I would love to have you back to discuss it. Think about your Chroma stuff, what you feel like Chroma is uniquely good at, and other Helminth abilities you want on Chroma. That's always a big one. Like Helminth abilities are really what I want. Weapons. So if that's a thing that you would enjoy, I would really love to have you. We start like around now, but 2 hours ago. If you were free 2 hours ago, that time next week. Right, we're gonna briefly take some time to talk about this whole thing about Hunter Munitions. Sure. Let me read what you asked, but I know you mentioned the Comb series, so let's get that out. Thanks for watching, folks. And yeah, I'm going to talk about that a little. So Nerthoff, you said, why do so many people slap Hunter Munitions on primaries? It's really good. It gives your weapon some armor ignoring damage that is affected by almost, we'll get to that, all of your other multipliers. It is kind of a separate multiplier. But let me finish reading your question. Especially Kuva Comb. It seems like you're overly focusing on Kuva Comb. So I'm going to answer that question the way I think of it in general, and then we'll go to Kuva Comb. Is that cool? So for example, let's talk about one of my weapons from my minimum viable arsenal. Let's use one of those. How about that? Like which though? Not Comorex. How about this one? I'm not using that on this one. But let's talk about this build. Base damage, multi-shot, crit chance, crit damage, fire rate, damage to Grenier, and status. This build is an example of a build where all 8 mod slots provide a separate multiplier, and they all affect each other as long as the enemy's a Grenier and they're not invulnerable to status. And if they're not Grenier, you don't need the 8th multiplier. And if they're invulnerable to status, then they're okay. Base damage, multi-shot, the crit things, fire rate, that's self-explanatory. These mods have this odd place, of course, where you get elemental damage, which multiplies with your base damage, your multi-shot, etc., but they also create a combined status effect. So it's really more like one of these alone doesn't necessarily create multiple multipliers, but these 2 slots create viral, which is one additional multiplier, and then viral status effect, which is another additional multiplier. So Hunter Munitions, if we had a 9th mod slot, Hunter Munitions would have its damage increased by nearly all of these effects. Base damage, yep. Multi-shot, yep. Crits, yep. Bane, yep. Fire rate, yep. And the viral status effect works. The viral damage itself won't make this do more damage, but it's still good. So it's pretty easy to understand why Hunter Munitions is good. That's why. And because removing armor or piercing armor with your slash proc damage is so high, it usually ends up just killing the enemy. You're not going to wait for them to die. Some players have criticized this by saying you're just waiting around for enemies to get killed. But if you ever watch anybody use a good build and actually play with Hunter Munitions, no one is waiting around for enemies to get killed by this. The first or second tick of it kills the enemy right away. because this amount of multipliers is so valuable, it doesn't really matter that it's damage over time. This is very good mathematically. Now, on what weapons, though, that depends on kind of two factors. The first one is how much is the weapon already doing, slash output, and how much status does it have, i.e., how much more slash could you get for the mod slot? And did I say A or B? A or 1? Anyway, 2 or B. Does the weapon have good enough crit chance for that to be, a good multiplier? And the common wisdom on the subject is that if the weapon has good enough crit chance that you would build crit chance on it, which is not very much crit chance, Hunter Munitions is usually very good, and the remaining reason you might not use it would be running out of mod space. So let me look at what I have on the Kubicomb, maybe rework it a little bit, and so we'll talk about it that way. Vigilant Armaments, I'll take that off and add Galvanized Hell. And in that mod slot, I think I want Hunter Munitions, so let's break that down. Base damage, like before, multi-shot, or crit. And again, I'm not necessarily going to use these. You could absolutely use critical what's it called? This one, which I probably would, especially if you're going to use Hunter Munitions in a minute. And here we've got Viral, and this one has innate electricity on it. Now, I might not have chosen that if I had the choice. But anyway, I built Viral onto it. So you can see here, if I put Hunter Munitions on, its damage is going to be increased by a lot of stuff. The crit chance is not really, really high, but it's consistent because the weapon hits with a lot of pellets. So this will very consistently output a lot of damage. Really, there isn't any point about mathing out exactly which build does the most damage on paper. This is the case where, in Neratharf, the answer to your question is put this on and shoot an enemy, and then swap to your thing you think is better, and play with that, and use the one that kills enemies faster. That being said, on paper, I think this makes more sense than any other mod would. Stacking a bunch of status might be better for some reason, but I don't think it is. And the reason is that we're not going to get that much for that one slot. This gives a lot of slash procs for that one slot. And I wanted to build crit anyway. This weapon has enough crit that crit is a good multiplier. Or to put it a different way, taking these mods off and building something else in those slots, might somehow do more damage, but I don't see like what, I kind of find that hard to believe. And again, like it's, enough crit on the weapon for that to be a good multiplier. 20% crit chance makes crit mods viable. So we don't have to interrogate these. These are a good damage multiplier if the weapon has that much crit. So now Hunter Munitions is online. It will activate extremely consistently with all the pellets this weapon has. So there's really only the remaining question is like, is there for some reason a mod that just does more damage than that? Maybe. Galvanized Savvy comes to mind. This would add a lot of status. And do I have room to equip this? Yeah. This adds a lot of status chance. And it does give the weapon more base damage. There is a good amount of statuses. If you have, so this is the Kuva one. You've got Viral and Electricity, Slash, and because it's got so many pellets, you will get Puncture and Impact. You could swap the Electricity to Heat or whatever. It doesn't matter for this discussion. And that might do more damage. I don't know. I mean, Neratharf, have you tried both versions and you like that one better? If so, then there you go, sure. But there's nothing else to say here. Hunter Munitions is not bad. It makes a lot of sense on this weapon, just like it does on nearly every other weapon with a similar amount of crit. It might be that this is a weapon where, because of the slash that it has innately, skewing the damage with something like you mentioned Maim to be more damage, that may make this weapon stronger by comparison. I'm kind of I don't know or care if that makes it stronger. I would be surprised if it did. Like, just thinking on paper, just guesstimating, I would imagine those would be similar. And Hunter Munitions seems efficient in its place on the build before. Like, if you go back to what I had before, there are some advantages here. The version with Galvanized Savvy only does more damage if it does more damage after you've gotten some kills. And I also don't know if I really want electricity here. I kind of just want more toxin, so I have more viral. And again, you could build a version that had more heat or more electricity and used Galvanized Savvy and maybe skewed it more towards slash. You could do all those things. Again, if that does more damage, like, that's fine. That's kind of beside the point. But does it make sense? Yeah, it does make sense to use Hunter Munitions here. There isn't really any mathematical reason why it's in any way confusing or invalid in any way it isn't elsewhere. I do want to quickly mention, though, that slash status effects, you know, it can be one thing that's good about Hunter Munitions is that it can be kind of inefficient to build for a bunch of slash because they don't do more damage based on the slash damage you built. They just happen more often. And this sort of gets around that a bit. That is a good thing about Hunter Munitions. I don't know. But again, if all you're trying to say is like, hey, I built this differently on this weapon and it's good, then Neretharf, if you don't mind me saying politely, a thing that happens commonly to me as someone who streams video games with builds in them is that people say a thing and they come into the stream and they say, hi, I've done this and it works really well. And if you think about what they said, there's no problem. Like, they seem to have something that works well for them, so that's fine. So why are they asking about it? Well, they're looking for validity, or they don't think other people think their thing is better, and so they want to interrogate that and find out if their thing really is better. And I don't know, like, you don't need anyone's permission for that to be an effective build for you. If it works better for you, that's fine. It isn't like somehow secretly bad to use Hunter Munitions everywhere. I have tried doing the thing you're describing on weapons like the Kuvacomb and other weapons. I will try to find another example for you quickly. And it's often good. I feel that when I've compared them side by side, this build performed better for me than everything else. But that doesn't mean that your approach is bad or worse. It also depends on playstyle and the other mods you have and the frame you're playing and your companion and stuff. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what to say. That being said, if what you're saying is I'm not sure how to identify base crit chance that is viable, I think it's 15%. I think a good baseline is 15%. I think what makes it convenient is that nearly every weapon that is the best version of that weapon that has like any crit at all has that much. There are very few weapons where there's, in my opinion, really a question about whether they have like viable crit chance. There are very, very few weapons like that, I think. There are some, though. Could I give an example? Yeah, so for example, the HEMA, 11% crit chance. When I compared building crit versus not, even though crit is a separate multiplier, I found that the crit is so low that it didn't feel better than the build without crit. I haven't tested that in a while, and that was just me playing around with it. I don't know or care whether it is mathematically better, but I will say that intuitively, I think it's 15%. Now, obviously, there's also some practicality, right? Like, if the weapon only hits one time, you might not want a coin flip. Your 15% crit is going to give you like 45% crit when you mod it. And then your sniper rifle basically flips a coin, and if tails, you lose 2 of your mod slots. That's not good. There are exceptions. There's this Vectis Prime build that I've used for a while. What the hell? There we go. That. Whoa. Galvanized chamber. Sharpshooter. No. What? This is not the right build. Where's the build? Prime chamber. There we go. It's this build. Get rid of that. Galvanized chamber. Hunter Munitions is here. Why is there no other? And then we use crit. I want critical delay. You would want viral. What was this supposed to be an example of? Right. Anyway, the 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 crit chance, even if it wasn't consistent for a weapon like this, the follow up shots are so fast that it's like fine. Um, but yeah, for like a good example would be the Rubico. Now the Rubico has a lot better than 20% crit chance, 15% crit chance, but a sniper rifle like this that had much lower crit chance, I would be wary. 15% is probably mathematically viable, but I don't think it will feel very good. Do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, like with that caveat, I would say it's not fairly simply. If the weapon has crit stats, it's pretty much viable. There are very few weapons that are like towing that line. Another reason I wanted to mention is that from a mathematical perspective, this kind of makes sense for another reason. I thought maybe I'd explain it from a different direction. This is just some random weapon, and we're not going to pay attention to what I actually have on it. We're just going to demonstrate by doing this real quick. Okay, cool. So we'll put on serration and split chamber. So base damage, multi-shot. We're going to add crit chance, and crit damage. And again, this weapon's crit chance is not really in question whether that's particularly viable with Hunter Munitions. I just wanted to illustrate something. We'll get to it in just a second. We've got Hunter Munitions, which we establish as another multiplier. Then we can add viral, which is, normally 2. The viral damage doesn't multiply with Hunter Munitions, but it does multiply with everything else. And then you could run a Bane effect if you wanted a final multiplier. I also think, like, on this kind of weapon, fire rate is another available multiplier we could add, and I like prime shred on weapons like this. If I had the space, I'd probably run it. The point I was trying to make is that just looking at it intuitively, it's not surprising from a certain perspective that this weapon wouldn't be better if you built a bunch of status instead of Hunter Munitions, because you wouldn't be building a separate multiplier. This weapon, it's a little different because there are 2 multipliers left, like prime shred fire rate and the Bane effect, only against Grenier, are also 2 multipliers. So there's some question about, like, you can fill all the mod slots with different multipliers, so which ones, But there are weapons where that's not the case. There are weapons where you have 8 mod slots, and once you put different mods in all 8 slots, and they're all different multipliers, there are no more mods that are different multipliers. So there then remains the question of, like, it would be an uphill battle to be removing a multiplier from all of your damage and then suddenly getting a damage increase. But yeah, I mean, again, I don't really know what to tell you. I feel like if you have tried, you have not yet said if you have tried, but if you've tried something like this and you built your version that has a bunch more slash and that does more damage, then I think you've got your answer. You could then go on to consider that that weapons that have around 20% crit chance are maybe on the edge of viability for something like Hunter Munitions, and that then your own build that focuses more on status might be more effective. I don't really have anything to add. You kind of explained what you think already. Personally, my experience has not been that. It's been that essentially every weapon with 15% or so crit, any weapon where there's really even a question about whether it's crit viable, basically is, in my experience. And I think Warframe is designed that way quite on purpose. And there are very few weapons, not none, but very few, where I'm really confused about that. I don't really know. A lot of them I feel like it just for practicality's sake, I've decided to go without crit. So again, I explained the HEMA before. This weapon doesn't shoot that many times. The fire rate's not that crazy. So the consistency would be kind of whack here anyway, which is, to me, like a good enough reason not to use it. But is it mathematically good? Like, I'm going to guess no, because the crit is so low. You're just thinking about it like 10% crit, 10% of the time you do 2 times damage. If you multiply that, so you make it so 20% more of the time you do like quadruple-ish damage, that's like a calculable damage multiplier. And would you get more than that from running like a bunch more status? I kind of think no, but I don't know. Let's see what I have on the HEMA since we're talking about it. I think the HEMA is a good example because it's something that I hope as it's a good example because a lot of people probably intuitively think, yeah, like it's probably not that great on the HEMA. Why is fast hands here? Um, don't do that. I haven't played with this weapon in a long time. But yeah, again, like I think like what Please One Time is saying, the weapons where this would be confusing would be like, does the weapon already have a bunch of slash and status chance? And then there's a question of like, would you get more slash output from running more slash and status chance or from Hunter Munitions? And then if the weapon is already maybe not using crit, then it's like, you know. But for a lot of them, it's like, you know, going back to the Kuvacomb thing. Like, if you didn't build crit here, you're opening up a lot of, like, that's a lot of multipliers you just lost, and you can get some of the slash back. Again, the number 310% status doesn't matter. That is irrelevant. That's a lot of status. You don't want a lot of status. You want the best value for each slot. You already have a lot of status. 310% status is not good. That's, I would think of it as bad. It's not bad if it's good damage. And then again, I have innate electricity. I'm not going to do the exact build you're describing. I'm just going to talk about it conceptually. If it's mathematically better, whatever. There's no point discussing that. You were asking about logic for maybe why it's like that. You're not derailing the stream, but I also hope you can understand like there's the 310% status thing is not relevant. That does not matter. That specific amount does not matter. But yeah, I can imagine like if you're saying that galvanized savvy and then what's the slashy boy sweeping serration and then like heat here, for example, if I didn't have innate electricity, you could do that. If that does more damage, I don't know or care. I'm not trying to tell you it doesn't. But I do believe it is surprising that it doesn't, because you're skipping adding the multiplier of crit and only adding a lot more of what you already have a lot of. A lot more base damage. You already have a lot of base damage. A lot of status. You already have a lot of status. Mathematically, it's not expected that would do more damage, but if it does, I'm not going to argue with that doing more damage. I do want to note, too, that this type of build, where you're adding more of what you already have, gets worse the more you invest in the weapon. If you add an arcane adapter to this weapon, which I might, I really like this weapon. Anyway, you would get a bunch of base damage, which makes this significantly worse, because the marginal benefit of adding way more base damage when you already have so much base damage is even lower if you have two big sources of base damage. So I would also suggest that perhaps if this build or a build like this is better for you at the moment, it might become worse again than the Hunter Munitions variant if you were to run a primary arcane. It might not, but mathematically that would make sense. I'm surprised that a build like this would be like much better than the Hunter Munitions variant. Maybe it is, but again, I think that would be surprising. So that would lead me to believe that if it is better currently, it probably becomes worse again if you run the arcane adapter, because you already have so much of these things. Just adding more to them usually wouldn't be mathematically very impressive. But again, I don't know. I hope it at least gives you food for thought about like why, like somebody with a reason why they're doing that would do it that way. I think a lot of people that are putting Hunter Munitions on every weapon, it's not bad on those weapons, but they're not thinking about why they're doing it. They're just copying people's builds that use Hunter Munitions. That's fine. But if you're looking for someone who does that, but has a reason they can tell you in words why they do that, that's what it is. I hope that makes sense. And again, I don't know whether that's the best damage on most of my weapons. The way I play, it doesn't matter. It kills everything very quickly. And I have tried other builds, and they have not frequently killed things faster, which is why I do it. And mathematically, I can explain why it would be good. You'd expect it to be the best build. I don't know. Like, that's me. Yeah, maybe I should get this to be only viral, by the way. Anyway. Hunman. Ah, yes. You're more than welcome. I hope that that helped in some way. I hope it was satisfying in some way. I don't ever mind going through an exercise about why. But yeah. Anyway, I will talk to you all a number of times. I have a quick housekeeping thing I need to discuss. Tomorrow, I am probably getting some minor oral surgery done. And that would mean that I can't stream tomorrow and also not on Sunday. I will probably be fine in time for this stream next week. There's a small chance it won't happen, in which case I'll stream, but plan for there not to be a stream. Thanks for the show. If you want to submit questions that I'll answer during the break in my stream this time next week, I would love them. Submit them here. But yeah, I'm probably not going to be here tomorrow and Sunday because of that oral surgery. If on very rare chance it's not likely, but maybe I will be. I don't know. We'll figure out something to play. On Sunday, we'll do Genshin Impact as normal. Dragoon, thank you for the 500 bits. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the 5,000 bits earlier. That's awful generous of you. I'll talk to y'all shortly.